Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another DVINO Talks. Today, we're going to talk to Jimena López. Jimena López is a winemaker from Argentina. She is the person behind one of our favorite, and as I was telling her before, rockstar wines, which is Bodini Malbec. It's one of the wines we carry at our store. Yes. And we're going to talk about a couple of her wines and also about Argentina, about Mendoza, and about Jimena's winemaker. Thank you, Jimena, for taking the invitation. Welcome to DVINO Talks.
Thank you so much, Neil, and thank you for the invitation. It's super important for us to have the opportunity to communicate Argentinian wines.
Tell us about you and the wine world. How did you get into winemaking?
Well, actually, I don't have any background in my family in the winemaking industry. Actually, I started working in a lab in a winery, decided that I was going to study winemaking. And in 2008, I decided to start my own way, making my own wine. I always was working in other companies, in private companies, and I decided that I really wanted to make my wine on my way, in the way I really wanted. So this is how I started in 2008 with no winery, with no vineyard. Until now, I don't have a winery and I don't own a vineyard. I buy the grapes to different suppliers.
Was it a challenge for you to become your own boss or a winemaker in a male-driven industry?
Yes, you know that I always say that the first 5 years were very, very challenging for me. I was super young. As I said, I was 18 years old when I started, and it was one world dominated by males. So I always say that I took it as a personal challenge. I never thought it was a disadvantage to be a woman. I took it as a challenge, and I really worked hard for many, many years until I got a very good opportunity to start working as a winemaker, as a head winemaker in an important winery here in Mendoza. Nowadays, I also teach in the university, and I see, you can tell that 50% of my students are girls. Nowadays, of course, the rules are changing, but on the other hand, I always say that every opportunity I got was given by a man. All my bosses were men. So just to be fair, I worked super hard. I had to be very strong, but I also had good opportunity. I was lucky enough to get good opportunities.
Let's talk about Mendoza, where your wines come from. The region. I mean, Argentina is such a vast and big wine producer region. I believe, the seventh exporter, most important in the world. And
right,
yet, we have this thing that is old world and new world, and the new world has been making wine for I don't know, 500.
400 years.
Yeah. So, but Mendoza and Malbec. Malbec comes from France, but it's got a very particular flavor or profile in Argentina, which is definitely it's being more popular in the market out there. What's the difference?
Right. Well, first of all, Mendoza is the most important region in Argentina. Mendoza is located in the central west part of Argentina, right next to the Andes Mountains. And in Mendoza, we produce the 80% of the wine of the country, of the total country. So by far is the main province, or the main wine province. And on the other hand, one of the things that makes Mendoza unique is that we have continental climate. We don't have any ocean influence, because on one side we have the Andes, and on the other side we have the Atlantic Ocean that is so far away. It's like 1,000 kilometers from the ocean. So it's very dry continental climate province. So if you look at the map, at the world map, all the most important wine countries have ocean influence. So something super unique in Mendoza. And the other unique or the other important point from Mendoza as a wine province is the altitude. As close as we get to the Andes, as high we get to the Andes, is cooler. So depending on where you are in Mendoza, you're going to get completely different profiles of your wines because the altitude has a super big impact in the quality of the wine. So Mendoza, going back to the Malbec, in Mendoza, you can find the biggest surface of Malbec planted. In fact, in one of the microregion, for me, one of my favorites, where these two wines come from, which is Luján de Cuyo, we call it the land of Malbec. Is where you can find the biggest surface of plantations and vineyards and the oldest vineyards. Vineyards that were planted in 1902, 1910, so super old vineyard of Malbec, which is a real treasure for us to have them. So even if Malbec was a variety that comes from France and it wasn't considered in France as a super high quality wines, I believe that Malbec found in Mendoza its place. And it's such a fantastic variety that depending on where you plant Malbec, even if it's the same clone, you're gonna get a completely different wine. And that's the fascinating thing about Malbec.
Let's taste your wines. Let's try Bodini. You
Sure.
just said that it comes from it's in the Luján de Cuyo. And
exactly.
Okay, so what's the profile? This is 2019, right?
Yeah, this is 2019. One of the things important is that when I always believe that we should design the wine in the vineyard. In my mind, tasting the wine and decided which part of the vineyard we're going to use for this project is the most important thing. I always said that the 90% of the successfulness of the wine comes from the vineyard. So you have to taste the grape, and then you need to define if that grape is going to give us Bodini. So for this product, what we wanted, we're looking for an approachable wine, fruity wine, friendly wine, that people really wants to drink one more glass of wine, so easy wine. But the most important to see the personality of the wine. The personality of a young Malbec is an estate wine because the winery where we make Bodini is the owner of the vineyard. So it's a let's say a young varietal wine that has this overvalue that is estate wine. So we control the vineyard management and also control the winemaking process from the vineyard to the bottle. So that's why we can keep this quality and the consistency with the years.
Okay, well, let's taste. Salud.
Salud. Oh, I'm going to open it.
I have to say, you know, the fruitiness, the freshness, the personality is still here. You said something that I like. I read something that you said once, that is there's a lot of technology right now in the in the wine industry, but it is still pretty much, it's all about the terroir, the soil.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's where everything starts. And
exactly. I strongly believe that what you don't get in the fruit, even if you have the best technology, even if you have a lot of money in the winery, you're not gonna get it. What it doesn't come from the grape, you're not gonna get it in the winery. And I also believe in simple winemaking. I always say that I'm obsessive with details. So we control a lot the fruit, the quality, the vineyard management, and we make a super simple winemaking because we care a lot about the grape that is going to be finally the wine. So it's a super simple winemaking. We try to keep all the freshness of the fruit. What we want to show with this Bodini is Pedriel, which is a microregion within Luján de Cuyo. We want to show the expression of this vineyard because, as I said before, it's an estate wine. And we want it modern. We want that people feel happy about it. You don't need a glass. You can drink it with, you know, with a common glass, whatever you have at home. You can eat it with whatever you have in your fridge. You can have it during the week. You can have it after work. The idea is an enjoyable wine, easy drinking, a simple wine. We want to show a real identity of Malbec at $19.99. I know it's $9 or close to $9 a bottle. A real value for the price.
Yeah, it's one of those wines that we call at the store, that I like to call wines that sits in the middle, and it's a type of wine that you can, bring to a party, and there is usually when there is these gatherings where people, everybody brings a bottle of wine, and nobody really knows, but everybody just wants to buy this, same kind of price of wine, and you could have from a super bold Cabernet Sauvignon to a very light Pinot Noir, and so this is one of the wines that wouldn't, it wouldn't establish a big difference. It would be good for conversations, as you say. And so, tell me something, Jimena. There is no a wood here, right? There is no aging wood. This is just pure fruit expression, right?
Exactly. In fact, we ferment part of this wine in a stainless steel and part of this wine in concrete pool. But basically, the idea is to show only fruit and expression of this vineyard. And again, it's a simple winemaker, super simple winemaking, and we try to bottle as soon as possible. You know that this bottle has a screw cap, so we can keep the fruit intensity and the color, and so we try to bottle as soon as possible once the wine is ready to be in the bottle.
Okay, let's move on to Graffito.
Yes.
Graffito seems to be your baby.
My baby.
Yeah.
My baby boy.
Yeah. It looks like this is one of your masterworks so far.
Yes.
That you're just I guess you have
Yes,
a long career ahead, and so tell me,
yes.
Graffito, as I'm opening this bottle.
Yeah. Well, Graffito is my baby boy. I have two girls. And so this is my baby boy. I started with this project, as I said before, in 2008. And it's a super small family project. Only my dad helps me with the financial things and accounts and all that. And my sister designed the label. Graffito means in Spanish, graphite. This is, as I said before, a dream became true because I have in my mind, I had it for many, many years, the wine I really want to make. So I had designed it in my mind right before to make it. And so Graffito, the idea of this place is that I designed the wine before actually made it. So Graffito, it's a super small lot. It's a wine made again from Luján de Cuyo. I really love super old vines. This wine is made with two different vines, one from Pedriel and one from Agrelo. The one from Pedriel was planted in 1903. And I really like the expression of this wine. This is a special wine for me because I work a lot in the vineyards, as I said before. Like now we're pruning, so I'm there pruning with the owner of the vineyard. I'm there when they pick. I'm there with the truck. We do a sorting table, double sorting table to select the grapes, and I do everything with my hands. And that's the story of this wine, to do it with my hands. I have a different job as a consulting winemaker, but this is my baby from the beginning to the end. I'm in the bottling. I do the topping barrels. I do the analysis. I'm in the bottling line. So this Graffito represents my idea. When I was working in France, when I had the opportunity to work in Germany and in France, I fell in love with the elegance and complexity of the European wine. So I said, I want to make a Malbec. I want to make a Malbec as complex as possible, as elegant as possible, which was a style in 10 years ago that it was like the contrary of what was going on at that time. Do you remember that 10 or 12 years ago, all the trend was super concentrated wine, super oaky wine, super ripe fruit.
Yeah.
And that was the ones getting the scores. And I said, I don't want to do that. This is not what I want to do. I want to express the complexity and the elegance of a wine coming from a very old vineyard in the land of Malbec, Luján de Cuyo. And I've been faithful to that idea until now.
That's amazing, Jimena. And I mean, you're talking about these are vineyards that are about 120 years old, right? I mean, you said 1902.
Right.
Wow. Let's taste this.
1902. Right.
Salud.
Of course, part of this wine, salud, part of this wine, of course, has barrels. Less 60% of the blend goes to French oak. But I always like to balance very well. I always work trying to have a balance. I don't want that the oak hides the wine. I want that the oak complex the wine and helps the wine, but I always want to show the fruit behind the wine. So this is more or less the style of Graffito. A wine made with my hands, a wine made with my DNA, my love, because I do this project makes me happy. The other projects are my job, but this project makes me so proud and so happy that I think I cannot do anything else.
You know, this is it's like, you know, you are definitely a part of that generation that has been challenging, you know, winemaking or traditional winemaking. And I see this as a form of art that is part of evolution. I mean,
Right.
I am a musician, and you know, I always feel the relationship between winemaking and making music as an art, as a science, because you have to know, you know, you have to, you know, as a technique, you have to understand how, you know, how operate a machine or how to play an instrument, right? So I see this as you're talking as your this is your as you said, this is your baby. This is something that you are involved from the very beginning to the very end. This is your masterpiece, you know. And that takes me back to the fact, you know, when we talk about for many reasons we always have to think about a female winemaker. It's not only Jimena López, but it's a female winemaker that has taken winemaking in a very particular way, very meticulous way. And so as a musician, there are many women playing music for many years, but I'm a percussionist, and
Right.
the percussion world is actually very, but historically and culturally, it's a man's world, right? And I've had the
Right.
opportunity, and I have the blessing of playing, and I have very good friends, female percussionists, and there is something very distinct, very particular they bring to 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 rhythm making, you know, to drumming, whether it's the amount of organization or how they think of the beats, or, you know, like the beauty of it, but there is something very, very special. What is the magic of female winemakers in making wine?
Mm-hmm.
I ask you.
Well, you know, I think that in my case, but I have good friends, good colleagues that we have been working together for many years. And I think that we have a sixth sense, you know, a sixth sense. And if you compare a man and a woman working in a winery, we are much more into details. Like we are obsessed for details. Like everything is important. For example, we have to crush today. The temperature has to be 15, it can't be 16 or 14, it has to be 15 Celsius. We check the wine 3 times a day. We check the barrels every week. It's like we are into details. And the men are more practical. See, it's like very simple, more practical. They found the solution to everybody, to everything like this quick. So this is a good, everything has an advantage and disadvantages. But so that's why I always say as well that the best team is the mixed team. Because we add
balance it out.
our, we balance. But I think the sixth sense is very important. Something even when we taste, especially I remember that when I was pregnant, my boss was like, "Wow!" Like I could get everything. Like we have very special development or of our sense, and this is something that men don't have that much. And of course details. And we basically, it's like something happens and you just once show up in the winery and I said, you know what, I'm gonna check that tank because something is wrong. And you go and something is wrong. It's kind of that.
Well, that sounds familiar in every sense.
Yes,
What we
exactly.
what women can do. But this is definitely an approach that I never seen in wine. And I when I've been in wine world relatively, in a very short period. We just opened the shop 3 years ago, but I've been a wine lover for many years. And yes, I also I got into the wine world in the same idea of this elegant, bold, very intervened wines. Whether it's from wood and that was the style. So
Exactly.
yeah, so now I see there is this whole this sort of new age of wines that are more into the expression of the soil and all these details and everything you're describing. But thanks to you and people like you, female males that are into this, new way of finding the expression of the wine. This is so important, and even though and on top of that, I think the fact that this wine right here, the Bodini, is such an affordable wine that is sometimes hard for people to believe or to be attached from the association of expensive wine is always a good wine, or inexpensive
Mm-hmm.
wine is always a bad wine or not a good wine. So this is something that we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to break, and you are part of this. And thank you so much for making these quality wines, and with all the love and all the input and everything that you put into it.
No, thank you to you. And something that I always say to my students, it's to be a good winemaker means that you have to be able to make great wines at every price point. Because there is a thought that you're gonna be a superstar or rock star if you get 99 points in a super expensive wine. Well, let me tell you that it's much easier to make 99 points of 1,000 liters, much easier than when you have to be consistent every year making million liters of a one blend. So you have to be good at every range, and it's a different challenge. But the idea is that we always say to my students, we represent Argentina at every price point, and we compete against the whole planet. Let's make Argentina proud.
Beautiful. Jimena, thank you so much. Thank you for
My
so
pleasure.
yeah, thanks for accepting the invitation, and all the best with all your projects. And we're super happy and proud to be carrying, keep carrying your wines and supporting Argentinian, Mendoza, Malbec, female winemakers, um, you know, around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks for represent our wines.